What's going on, YouTube? So the Cadillac Escalade and the Lincoln Navigator have been trading blows since the late 1990s, when they were introduced just 1 year apart. In recent years, Escalade has been the sales leader, but 2 years ago, Lincoln mounted a serious attack with this all-new generation of Navigator. Well, now it's time for the Escalade to fight back, since it is now also fully redesigned and improved in pretty much every way. But who will come out on top? Let's go ahead and find out. Now before we get into it, let's discuss the pricing and equipment levels. As flagship models, both are definitely expensive. So for the Navigator, we're looking at a total price tag of $93,850 for the Reserve Monograph 4x4 with several option groups. For our Escalade, it is actually less expensive than that. Now this example is a pre-production model, so there was no sticker. But according to Cadillac's build-in price, the price tag of this premium luxury four-wheel drive would be $89,285 all in. Alright, so let's start things off by checking out the super bold and imposing exteriors. For the Navigator, we have the largest version of the signature Lincoln grille, which is actually blacked out on this specific example. It's got a kind of soft, rounded look, while the Escalade has a sharp and angular look for its equally large grille. For 2021, the inside finish is now a silver mesh instead of large chrome bars. And another big departure is the switch to horizontal-oriented LED headlights instead of the previous generation's stack design. The Lincoln also has full LED lighting, and both SUVs separate the turn signals off from the main unit. However, Escalade does not have fog lights. Heading on around, both have large 22-inch alloys, and if you don't like these designs, you have plenty of other options. The Escalade again plays up the rugged and boxy look in the back and has large full-length LED taillights that nicely frame it up. These lights have a cool animation to them, plus the Cadillac also includes nice integrated exhaust outlets on the bottom, which are missing from the Lincoln. Now moving past the design choices, both SUVs are loaded with features, like mirrors that heat, fold, automatically dim, and include blind spot monitoring. And then as far as all your other safety systems, as you would expect, these two will both have you covered with all the typical safety systems. But there is something to consider. Only the Escalade will offer Super Cruise, which is a cool autonomous highway driving system. Next up, we have the warranties, where they both have the same coverage, besides for the fact that the Cadillac includes one complimentary maintenance visit. Finally, we don't have the full numbers, but towing should be pretty much the same for both of them. Anyway, that's the end of the exterior comparison. So now let's get to the very important cabins before we take them out for a drive. So walking up to the vehicles, both are obviously going to have smart entry systems, but you'll notice the Escalade's fob is more premium with real metal trim along the side. However, at this price point, the Navigator gives you power deploying running boards. Another thing I want to note is that the Escalade's door handles are electronic, so they don't actually move when you grab them. Now checking out the interiors themselves, they have radically different designs. While both look luxurious, the Escalade immediately casts a high-tech vibe as soon as you open the door, while the Navigator has more of a classic luxury theme. Its cabin is finished in premium ebony leather, and the Cadillac in parchment Mulan leather. The seats themselves are both heated and ventilated. However, the Lincoln has the upper hand here, since it has the 30-way power-adjusting perfect position seats, compared to the Escalade's 12-way power seats. Additionally, it has massaging abilities, which is something only offered on the Platinum Escalades. Now beyond the seats, both cabins have great interior materials. The Lincoln uses a stitched soft touch plastic across the upper dash, lots of real open pore wood through the middle areas, and then padded leather, real chrome, and piano black for the lower parts. Despite that, the Escalade's interior is definitely a level up, with a full leather dashboard, lots of real wood and aluminum trim, and even little details like leather trim around the edges of the screens. Now after startup, this is where you'll start to notice the difference in technology that a few years can make. While both have digital gauge clusters, the Cadillac uses a 14.2-inch digital one that is part of the broader 38-inch OLED display. We'll gradually talk about all the advantages of this system, but in regard to the gauges themselves, they have a lot more options in terms of the design and a lot sharper in terms of the resolution. Additionally, the Escalade has augmented reality navigation that appears right here in the gauges and pops up instructions over top of a live camera view of the road. Of course, it pretty much goes without saying that both have heated, leather-wrapped steering wheels with power adjustment, but the Navigator also has power pedals. Now the next area to evaluate is interior storage, where the Nav is the one that comes out ahead. While both center consoles are roughly the same size, the Lincoln has a lot more storage in the front and another large storage bin thanks to the floating console design. Now both of these do use electronic shifters, with Lincoln using a push-button style instead of the dash-mounted one on the Escalade. When you go into reverse, both have 360-degree camera systems, but the Escalade's is vastly superior, with way better resolution, way more angles, and even the ability to spin around the vehicle. Alrighty, now that brings us to the audio systems, so let's go ahead and take a sample. Both of these sound systems are honestly stunningly good, so I can't pick one over the other. Now let's go ahead and return to the screens. For the Navigator, we have a 10-inch display with the latest version of Sync 3. Performance can be a bit laggy at times. The Escalade has a lot more wow factor, including a 6.9-inch OLED display with the highest resolution I've ever seen in a vehicle, and a very distinctive curve. It also features wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which aren't yet offered on the Navigator. And finally, ending the front part, both have panoramic roofs. But since these are giant 3-row SUVs, there's still a lot to talk about in the rear areas of the cabin. As far as space, the Escalade used to be the smaller product, but this redesign has put them within spitting distance of each other. The features are also largely the same, both having their own climate controls, heated rear seats, and lots of connections for devices. A major difference, however, is the fact that the Lincoln has a full console back here, for both more storage and a cool executive feel. Both come with the optional rear seat entertainment systems, but the Cadillac's is better since they are larger and have touchscreen abilities. The third rows are the same as the second, with the Escalade making huge gains in legroom and comfort thanks to the switch to an independent rear suspension. The Navigator already had that, and is actually quite a bit larger still. Additionally, its seats can power recline. And finally, turning our attention to the cargo areas. The Cadillac has leapfrogged the Navigator this year, since it offers more cargo space at all 3 seat configurations. Now these two have been very different throughout this video, so it shouldn't be surprising that they take very different approaches under their hoods. The Escalade stays with the tried and true 6.2-liter naturally aspirated V8, making 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque, and very nice V8 noises. The Lincoln, on the other hand, goes with a twin-turbo V6 that actually makes more power across the board at 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. Good grief. This is a big SUV, but it sure does scoot.
Wow.
That was all the way up to 60 miles an hour. Going a little bit downhill, just a little bit downhill, but still. The power numbers on this are enormous, and you can definitely tell as soon as you put your foot down. Since this Escalade was pre-production, we were not allowed to drive it. However, we have driven the related Tahoe, so we will provide a bit of that experience to give you guys a taste, though it's safe to assume that the Escalade will perform quite a bit better. Ironically, Ford and GM co-developed the 10-speed automatic used in both trucks, and it does perform fantastic in both applications. Levels. Shifting, definitely nice. This is a good and responsive transmission. Ironically, co-developed with Ford and also used in its big competition, the Expedition.
Yeah.
We also have a 10-speed automatic transmission. You probably didn't notice it getting up to speed there, and that's because it blends into the background absolutely seamlessly. You really don't feel any shifting at all. Of course, you don't hear anything really either. And yeah, it's hard to, can't find anything to really complain about with that transmission. As far as ride and sound insulation, we can't really compare them, but we can tell you that the Navigator does a great job in both respects. We look forward to fully testing out the Escalade in the next couple of months.
And you know, after you do get up to speed, these luxury flagship SUVs, what they really do best is just being comfortable for all 3 rows, and the Navigator is no exception. We didn't actually get the chance to drive the all-new Escalade, so I can't compare, you know, tit for tat, but I have to say this is really going to be hard to beat, because just the sheer quietness you get here. We're going 45 miles an hour. It feels like we're just sitting still on a cloud.
Finally, when it comes to fuel economy, the V6 Navigator does have the advantage. And last but not least, we have to revisit the pricing and discuss value. Now, our Navigator was equipped to have about $4,500 more equipment than the new Escalade. So to represent that, we will award a quarter point per $1,000 of difference, or 1.25 points to the Cadillac. Well guys, that's where we are going to wrap up this comparison video. Obviously, these are both formidable SUVs with extreme amounts of luxury all around. Make sure to let us know which of the two you would pick in the comments below. And thanks for joining us for another Car Confections comparison. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more comparisons, lots more content about these new GM SUVs, the Navigator, and everything else auto related. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.